went to bleeding races, 'twas on the 9th of June, 1862 on a summer's afternoon. I took the bus to Banbury's and she was heavy laden. Away we went along Collingwood Street, that's on the road to bleeding.
You're watching TOON Army TV. Welcome to the channel. This is the Southampton versus Newcastle United match preview this Friday at St Mary's Stadium. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff. If you haven't seen these previews before, I talk all things Newcastle in the first part of the preview. Then in the second part of the preview, I'll talk all things the opposition, Southampton, with a final score prediction. If you're new around here, if you're feeling generous, please subscribe. It's free. Turn on the notification bell. Please hit that like button and get interactive down below in the comment section by letting me know your start 11s and your score predictions for the game on Friday. So let's jump straight into it. So Newcastle, we go into this game in 11th place on 11 points after we beat Everton 2-1 at St James's Park last time out. We deserved to win the game. We showed some real fight. It wasn't pleasing on the eye, but we got the job done. That was the main thing. And with a win against Southampton this Friday, we can jump into the top 6. It all depends on how many goals we can score by against Southampton. But a win isn't guaranteed. But that's what can happen if we go down to St Mary's and try and get all 3 points. It will not be easy. In terms of Steve Bruce and how he goes about the game, well, he's been changing the formation quite a lot. But the last couple of games, he's been using the 5-3-2 formation, which in the last 2 games against Wolves and Everton, we've picked up 4 points, which is not bad going. However, I do prefer to see Steve Bruce change it to 4-2-3-1, where you've got your back 4, you've got your 2 sitting in deep, and then you've got your number 10, where he can, run around, make runs. And I'm talking Almiron, for example. He's been using Hendrick lately. And then you've got your wingers. And then you've got your focal point, your striker in this case, Callum Wilson. But then you look back at the 5-3-2. I think it's going okay. I'm starting to warm towards it. I'm not a massive fan of the whole wing-back system. But I can see what Steve Bruce is trying to do. And I can't really argue for the formation up to now, because we've been getting those results. And we are unbeaten in our last 2 games. Now, the lads, in my opinion, should go for it. I've got that down in my notes. It's a game where I look at Southampton. Yes, they're a good side, but defensively, they can switch off. And we beat them last season, 1-0, with a St Maximin goal in the second half. We should have won by more, in my personal opinion. But Southampton's been a decent hunting ground for us, I would say, especially going from last season. And we can make it back-to-back wins there. There's no question about it. We've showed time and time again that without really doing too much with the ball, we can hit teams on the counter-attack and get the goals that we need to win games. Ideally, I know it's away from home, and I understand that Southampton is a long way to go. I think we still need to get at these sort of sides and not just sit back and soak up the pressure. We've got enough attacking quality to be getting at the likes of Southampton and making a real game of it, because we've seen it when we took on West Ham United that we can cause real problems, to an opposition. We showed it last week against Everton without really doing too much, but we showed how clinical we are. But if we attack a lot more than we are, then we're definitely going to score more goals. It's simple as that. And we've got what it takes. It's just we need to try and get out our shells a little bit more. And I think Steve Bruce needs to try and instill that into the side. I think he needs to go into games with a bit more positivity. But then again, you could argue, well, we're getting the points, which is understandable. We are getting points, but I think you still want to see more free-flowing football and to be working the keeper a lot more than we are. Now, I look at Southampton and I think if we can get an early goal, then anything can happen. And I just think with a bit more thinking and moving forward quicker, it's possible. Now, players to watch out for from the Newcastle side of things, if you're a Southampton fan watching, I have selected 4. First up, Callum Wilson scored 2 goals against Everton last week. Played really well, very clinical. One from the penalty spot and one where he prodded in to make it 2-0, which pretty much wrapped up the game. We did obviously concede towards the end. But this season, he's been worth the 20 million quid. He's scored 6 goals already. And it's about time now that Gareth Southgate looks at a player like Wilson for the next England game, because he's playing ever so well. And long may it continue for Wilson, because I feel like on Friday he's going to be a real threat. He's going to be up for it. And I remember the sort of Southampton Bournemouth games where he would have been up for it. So he knows all about Southampton. And I do expect him to sort of finish off where he left off against Everton. And if we give him the service, I think he will, score on Friday against you lot. Now, Almiron, potentially in the number 10. He is a hard worker. He's a grafter. We know that. But I want to see him more in terms of getting forward, being more positive. We know that he can do that, but he just needs a service, because 9 times out of 10 we're just sitting back. But we know what he brings to the table. We know that he can not only work for himself, but he can bring others into play. Steve Bruce lately hasn't been playing him in the sort of number 10 role. He's been playing him on the left-hand side. It's a strange one, really, but I think Almiron, will be a threat, and you've seen him long enough now to know what he brings. ASM, he's not been great the last few games. Maybe it's where he's been played, but he is being played further forward and he's sort of getting man-marked, but we know what he brings. He's a fast, tricky customer who's got plenty of skill about him. He likes to, take on a defence and break teams down and score. He's not only that, but he likes to bring others into play as well, such as Almiron, and, set up goals for, the likes of Wilson. We need to try and get him on the ball as much as possible. But I think if you close him out, then we've sort of lost our attacking threat, because he is our go-to man in terms of making things happen and scoring goals as well. He's had an okay start to the season, could be better, but I think it's more down to the fact that he had that injury at the start of the season, but he's also getting man-marked, and that's not always easy, because everybody knows how quick he is. And on the night, you're going to have to do your work on Alan St-Maximin. Ryan Fraser, he set up the goal for Wilson, the second one. You should know about him by now, playing for Bournemouth. He scores goals for fun. He's had an okay start to the season. He's not really had the game time, that he wished to have had. But when he's played, he's looked decent. He's very positive. He's got pace and he forces mistakes. And he did that against Burnley, and he did it last week against Everton, catching out the defence and the keeper respectively. And I think with Fraser, we know what he brings, and without his pace, we sort of lack. But he's not scared to, run at defences, very like St-Maximin, and cut in and maybe bring a player into the match or score. So I think he's a one to watch out for. Whether he starts, that's another thing. He may come on in the second half, but if you're tiring out, you're going to have to try and do your best to stop him. Now, looking at the team lineup, I don't think much is going to change from the team that played against Everton. I do believe Steve Bruce will stick with the 5-3-2 formation. So my starting 11 is of this: Cardalo in net, the back 5. So Jamal Lewis at left back, Jacob Murphy at right back, and the 3 defenders are Fabian Schär, captain Jamal Lascelles, and Federico Fernandez. Then in the sort of 3, you've got Sean Longstaff, Hendrick sort of in the middle. I think he's more playing a number 10, where I'd like to have seen him anyway, rather than be drafted out on the right-hand side. And then alongside him, Almiron. And then you've got ASM and Wilson pushed up front. You've got sort of ASM on the left-hand side and Wilson on the right-hand side. And it has worked to a degree, but I still believe we should do more with this, formation, especially if you've got wingers like Jamal Lewis and Jacob Murphy sort of pushing forward and getting back. We need to see more from them, but we need to see more from the midfield as well. We showed it in glimpses against Everton that we are very capable. I'm not a massive fan of 5-3-2. I'm not a massive fan of 5 at the back, but so be it. If it works, it works. It has been getting results, in the last couple of games. Moving on to Southampton. Southampton are currently 5th in the Premier League table going into this one. They currently sit on 13 points, and if they beat the TOON on Friday night at St Mary's, they can jump into first place in the Premier League table. That is the big initiative before the rest all play their games over the course of the weekend. Now, they did beat Aston Villa 4-3 away from home at Villa Park last Sunday. A very good away performance for the Saints. Another victory, and that's what's put them in a very good position. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen highlights of that match, and Southampton were very good in the first half, but collapsed in the second half. And if Aston Villa maybe had an extra 5 minutes, that game could have finished 4-4 and they could have dropped 2 big points, which they didn't in the end. So fair play to Southampton. Now looking at their manager, Ralph Hasenhüttl, he's had a very good start to the season. I think he's been very good in general as Southampton manager. He's really improved them, especially over the last 12 months. You remember they lost 9-0 at home to Leicester City, and you're thinking to yourself, these could go down, They've got a good manager, they've got some decent players, but they're not playing to their full potential. But since they got beat 9-0, they've really had a kick up the arse, and the manager has really got the best out of them. They've started to play for them, they've got a real know-how, they've got a real identity, they play fast, counter-attacking football, and nowadays they actually score goals. And with that, you pick up the results that you want, and you're looking up the table rather than down. If you cast your mind back to a year ago with Southampton, they were a sort of side that you would expect to be down there, around 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, even the relegation picture. Now they're looking into being in the top 10. And with that manager in charge, anything could happen. He's a very attacking-minded coach, and who knows where Southampton could go between now and the rest of the season. I said it this time last week with Everton, can Southampton keep it up? Well, we'll only wait and see. It's still early days into the season yet. Now, in my notes, I have put, could be a positive for both Newcastle and Southampton, because we're both coming to this game off the back of a win. And with a win, it breeds confidence. And that confidence is only going to help in the next fixture. And it's only going to go one way or the other. But I'm hoping it's not going to be a stale 0-0 draw or a 1-1. I feel like there's more to give from both sides, and I'm hoping the TOON have that little bit more to get the 3 points down at St Mary's. I think it's going to be an open game. I think Southampton will go for it, and if Steve Bruce goes into the game with the right mentality and we have a go and we show what we're capable of, then we can make a real fist of it. Now Southampton, they play a 4-4-2 formation. It's very old school, but I do like when a lot of managers go 4-4-2, back to basics. You've got your 2 up front, you've got 2 focal points, you've got your 2 wingers, and you've got your 2 midfielders, all working together to try and get the ball up to the attack as much as possible, even working hard, on the ball, the midfielders, trying to make something happen themselves. You've got your back 4, all working hard for each other, trying to keep the ball out as much as possible, helping and supporting the goalkeeper. And you could say in part it's open, but I feel like looking at that formation, I've got them down as a free-flowing counter-attacking side, and that's been evident over the course of this season. They score goals, however they do leak goals at the same time. Another positive for Newcastle. That Southampton, yes, they're very good on the counter-attack, but they do have a weakness in terms of their defensive vulnerabilities. But I will mention that on whoscored.com, so make sure you keep watching for Southampton's strengths and weaknesses. Now, players to watch out for on the evening, I have selected 3. First up, Danny Ings. He's had another good start to the season, scoring 5 goals in the process. He's definitely shown what he's capable of doing from last season, scoring over double figures. And you look at Danny Ings, he's really taken Southampton to another level, very similar to Callum Wilson. He will work hard on and off the ball. He'll put himself in the right place at the right time. He'll try and get into the box as much as possible. And if you just give him that service, which the midfield are going to have to do, then he will put the ball in the back of the net, would know that he's a goal scorer. And he's just a fox in the box. He's everything that you want in a striker. Now, he is doubtful for the game on Friday. That's due to the injury that he picked up against Aston Villa last time out. It was a knee injury, but I believe he could be okay for the game. He's going to be monitored over the next couple of games, but we'll only wait and see when the team lineups are selected for Friday's game. But I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that he does pull through and that we do see him, but that we can sort of keep him quiet on the night. Che Adams, the striker, alongside Danny Ings, who they signed from Birmingham City. He did okay towards the back end of last season. We know that he's a good striker. He's only got a couple of goals this season, but he's still off the mark and he will be a threat. Our defence have to be on it. We'll have to be man-marking both Danny Ings and Che Adams because they both form a very good partnership. Che Adams works hard on and off the ball. He relies so much on service, and if you give him the service very similar to Danny Ings, he will put it in the back of the net. He's a young striker, and I believe he will, like Danny Ings, get double figures come the end of the season. James Ward-Prowse from the midfield, he's come through like the Southampton Academy. Obviously, he's a more experienced player for Southampton now in the midfield. He had a very good game against Aston Villa last time out. On his birthday, he scored 2 free kicks, very good free kicks, by the way. And we'll have to watch out for that, because if Southampton get a free kick and we don't sort the wall out, that free kick's going to go in the back of the net, and that could be a sucker punch for us. But we'll have to watch out for him, because not only is he good from free kicks, but he likes to make very good runs, and he will have a go. He will test the goalkeeper, and at times we have been left open, and we have allowed midfielders to exploit, our defence. And I feel like a lad like James Ward-Prowse will look to thrive off that, and he'll be looking to continue his goal scoring form this Friday. Now, looking at their injuries and suspensions, they don't seem to have any from what I've researched. However, Danny Ings is a question mark. As mentioned before, he has got a knee injury, but he will be getting monitored in the next couple of days. Just have a look on the Southampton Twitter and Facebook accounts, etc., for the latest updates on that if you're a Newcastle fan watching. I'm sure if you're a Southampton fan, you'll know the extent of the injury and if he's going to start this Friday. Now, let's have a look at whoscored.com for Southampton's strengths and weaknesses. So Southampton have 4 strengths and 5 weaknesses. However, I don't want to look at that as like a bad thing going in our favour, because at the end of the day, it's another one-off match. But anyway, we'll jump into it, looking at their strengths. So number 1, shooting from direct free kicks. As mentioned, James Ward-Prowse scored 2 last game out. So if we concede a free kick or any sort of set piece, we'll have to make sure that we're mentally switched on and that we clear our lines at every opportunity that we get. Attacking set pieces, so as mentioned, corners, free kicks, they've got the height to make things happen and potentially put the ball in the back of the net, and they are very good at that. They're well drilled by Ralph Hasenhüttl. Coming back from losing positions, so if we get a lead, we'll have to try and double it, try and get a second goal, and that will always help. Otherwise, if Southampton get it back to, say, 1-1, for example, they may go on and win the game because they are the home side. But just as well, there's no fans, so it might make a difference on the night. Stealing the ball from the opposition, so I have to make sure that when we're on the ball, we don't give it away. But that's been our problem. We don't tend to have a lot of possession, so that might work in Southampton's favour. I do expect them maybe to have a lot more of the ball than what we have, but it all depends on how we start the game in the formation which Steve Bruce goes with. But I do believe it will be the 5-3-2. It's just using your common sense. That's what our lads need to do, and just make sure we stop Southampton at every one time. Looking at their weaknesses, so protecting the lead. So if Southampton get the lead, they're very vulnerable at conceding the goal, which we know, because the last game they conceded 3 against Aston Villa. So there's a chance maybe to believe in ourselves and to go and get that equalising goal. Avoiding fouling in dangerous areas. So Southampton will give away fouls. I've seen it in the matches this season, and that if the foul in a dangerous area like free kicks, etc., we've got the players to attack and score goals. So that's something that we need to make sure that we're on the game. Aerial duels. So again, not really good at winning the balls, and so like throw-ins, and maybe the goalkeeper maybe taking the goal kick. They're not always great at winning the ball. They are in sometimes in some areas, but I think it all depends on how their opposition is, so and how we go about the game. Defending against skillful players. So, for example, we've got Fraser, who's got pace, and they will struggle to deal with him, I believe. And then we've got ASM, who, is the more skillful player at the football club. And if we use him as much as possible and get at that Southampton defence, I think we're very capable of scoring, a couple of goals on the night. And defending counter-attacks. So we're very good at that. We showed it against Everton that we can't hit teams on the counter-attack and that we can't be devastating. We can just soak up the pressure and catch teams on the counter-attack. We're very, very, very good, at doing that. And if we show that on Friday, we've got a very good chance, of scoring goals. But anyway, we're going to jump into my score prediction for the game on Friday. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Newcastle. I'm feeling rather confident after the 2-1 against Everton, but I think we need to be more expressive. We've got what it takes. I feel like it's going to be a good game, you know. I really do. Both teams come off the back of a win. We beat them at St Mary's last season, but I think we're quite capable of doing it again. I would take a point to build on, as they say. But ideally, I want to stay positive, and I believe we've got what it takes to get all three. And if we're set up correctly, then anything is possible. But I do believe there will be goals in this match. Now, let me know your score predictions down below in the comments. Let me know your squad selections. Who do you think Steve Bruce is going to go with? If you're a Southampton fan, Rav Hasnutel. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Keep it tuned. How are the lads?
Hey, hey,